this. And Kildangan will be the next up for Tipperary to see how they perform. But the All-Ireland odds, so surprise, surprise, Ballygunner are favourites 5-4. I'm just looking at betting here. I won't promote a company that it's not going to look after us now. St. Thomas's are 11-2, just like the 𝘗𝘰 are. O'Loughlin Gales are 8-1. Na Fianna 12-1, as are Schlockneil. Kildangan 18-1. Kilcormac 20-1. Cushendall 28-1. So kind of interesting there. I don't think it's any surprise that Ballygunner are the favourites. Now, we did our power rankings not so long ago. We've fairly had our pants pulled down by results in the meantime. But we're going to do another one in a little bit of time. So we'll come back to it in a little bit of time. Or should we talk about some of the...
I don't know. I'm happy enough to go now if you want.
So you're okay. Let's bring it up. So
I always think it's better just to spring it and go for it. I'm happy enough to go now. Listen, we have a couple of teams included that are since departed. We have a couple of teams that were excluded. That I thought O'Loughlin should have been in the 10. I'm sure they've been in the 10 this time, I'd say. But it's interesting to try and I think now you can have a greater guess at who's going to be where down the line now that we do actually know all the champions. But I don't think there's any debate in who's number one anyway. And that's the Gunners are easily number one.
Okay, so this Potemkin village it's fake villages built to impress Russian Queen. Well, that clears that up for me anyway. I know. But anyway, look, that point aside, because we'll see how the Tip Club goes this year. The last ranking we did, we had Ballygunner at number one. I'm actually going to put them in red, the teams that are now gone. So that's Ballygunner, Shamrocks. Actually, red isn't going to really work here, is it? But yeah, do you know what? I'm going to stick with it anyway. Loughrea, they're gone. St. Thomas's are still in. Schlockneil are still in. Thurles, wow. We're not going well here, are we? Cushendall.
No, actually, listen, like there's always a bit of you're kind of trying to look into the crystal ball going forward, and that's the danger of it. But it was kind of more crack to try and guess or predict at that stage rather than just wait until all the county champions were through, you know.
It would have been windy to wait, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's probably the best way of describing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Cork's Sarsfields would not win the intermediate, and Kilkenny says Liam Burke. Verney, I'm watching him. If you let him leave the hurling without giving it to Saint this morning, I'll be on your case.
Adrian's always on our case regardless anyway, to be honest with you.
Yeah, okay, so like let's just put Ballygunner number one, yeah?
Definitely number one, yeah.
And
like if you look at it, if you look at where Thomas's are at the minute, Thomas's are definitely in an All-Ireland semi-final. They're obviously beaten by Dunloy in that semi-final last year. They weren't comprehensive in Galway. It was probably, what did they win by 2 points in the wind-up? But they were good winners in Galway. They've 6 in a row done. I find it hard enough to debate anyone else but them number two at this stage.
Yeah, and like even putting the 𝘗𝘰 at number 3 it's a small bit tricky, because if we assume that Ballygunner are going to beat them, how do we have them at number 3?
Yeah, exactly. What do we look like? Who do we think the All-Ireland semi-finalists will be? Ballygunner and Thomas is on one side, and then the Leinster champions, good luck, versus the Ulster champions.
Yeah. So, like, do we think Cushendall are going to win it? Do we think that it's going to be Schlockneil?
Yeah. I'd say the fact that Schlockneil were kind of dumped out of football at the semi-final stages probably helps their case. Cushendall won answer by.
Yeah, I'd give them a nudge as well. Yeah,
just to have the credit in the bank, and they, like, to be fair, they pushed Ballyhale very close a couple of years ago. They pushed Ballygunner close a couple of years ago in Parnell as well. Was it 4 or 5 points in the wind up? I probably would have Schlockneil up very. I would have them ahead of Cushendall at the minute.
Yeah, Cushendall weren't they only beaten by a last second point by St. Thomas's in Parnell Park 3 or 4 years ago?
That's right. Yeah. David Sherry, I think it was, got the winning point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, this is a tough one to decide. Like, we might think na 𝘗𝘰 would beat, any of those Ulster teams that we've just mentioned, but it's hard to keep them up near the top of the list if we assume that Ballygunner are going to win.
Yeah. But saying that, we also think that if we think na 𝘗𝘰 would be All-Ireland favourites if they did beat Ballygunner. So there is a bit of a balancing act there. I don't think you can leave them out of the top 4. But
oh God, no. Yeah. So like, if you were to ask me, do I think na 𝘗𝘰 would beat St. Thomas's? I think na 𝘗𝘰 from a couple of years ago, I would have had them as heavy favourites, but I'm not quite as sure now for the same reasons you said. They don't seem quite the same team, and the way they performed in the semi-final wasn't unbelievable. Now, they were pretty good against Patrickswell in the final, and maybe another couple of weeks of, Will O'Donoghue getting his training, he'll, be back absolutely flying, and then they've got that spine of Shane Dowling in goals, Mike Casey and Will O'Donoghue, and all of a sudden you're looking pretty tasty. I think they'd beat, like, who else would we have in the top four? I'd imagine they'd beat Schlockneil if we're going to have Schlockneil high up in this.
Yeah.
I'd say O'Loughlin Gales would have to go higher just because their route is probably that bit more favourable than the Pearshicks.
Oh, yeah. Jeez, I fancied O'Loughlin's to win Kilkenny, but I think they will get their fill of it this weekend against Mount Leinster Rangers.
Right. So
I couldn't have them at 3. I couldn't have them at 3. Are they the most likely Leinster winners? Probably.
For me, yes.
Probably.
Hugh Lawler, Mikey Butler and Paddy Deegan. And these games are going to be, hard fought. And these lads, like especially Deegan and Lawler, they're absolute monsters. And they've got normally a very reliable free taker in Mark Bergen, and they've got the likes of Owen Wall and a couple of other good shooters in there.
I can't have them at 3 though.
But who do you think's going to win Leinster?
Oh, sure. How long have you got?
Okay, who's going to beat them? Who's going to beat them in Leinster? Like, I think Mount Leinster will give them a very good game, but I still think that O'Loughlin's will win it.
Oh, I think that would be very tight. I think that could be a 1-score game actually, and it wouldn't be a bit.
So who do you think's going to win it?
I wouldn't back against Mount Leinster. Genuinely,
You've been with O'Loughlin's all year, and now you're turning your back.
I have, yeah, but and they have had a good run in Leinster before as well. But Jesus, 2 weeks after winning the county final and everything that comes with it, going down to Dr. Cullen Park, I think that's such a ropey fixture. But all 4 quarterfinals, you could genuinely call. You could call either side and not be foolish to do so. Like, you could call Camross to beat Naas. You could call Raharney to beat Na Fianna. First-time champions generally don't have with everything and the trappings of all that come with that, and celebrating like first-time champions, that could have an effect on Na Fianna. And then the other one, was it O'Loughlin's and Mount Leinster, and then the other one is Kilcormac and Naas. Like, I wouldn't.
How many of those teams have beaten the Pearshik?
None.
Okay, so the Pearshik have to go to number 3 then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, to be honest with that, I think that's the long and short of it. I'd have Schlockneil 4 as well.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because I think they have a hell of a lot of credit in the bank from previous years. Now, they were obviously beaten by Dunloy last year. I think that might have been the 3rd time Dunloy beat them, and they'd kind of been built up to beat them. But now Schlockneil are coming with that bit of hunger again, and I know they've done, was it 10 in a row or 11 in a row up in Derry, but they're coming now. They actually have a point to prove again.
Where do you put Cushendall in here then?
Now is where I think the Leinster team start coming in now.
Okay, so you're thinking Cushendall didn't beat Dunloy on the way they beat Lochgiel in the final, therefore, Lochgiel maybe stormed the castle with Dunloy. Now all of a sudden you're giving Cushendall no credit. That's what I'm hearing.
We've Cushendall 8 in the previous list, something like that, maybe.
I'll bring it up here again. We had let me get that comment.
9.
We had him 9th. Jay Kwan says O'Loughlin's versus Schlockneil and Ballygunner versus St. Thomas equals O'Loughlin's versus Ballygunner. So he's saying Ballygunner will win it. Okay, so we're saying, look, I would probably have O'Loughlin's at 4th here, only because I think if they came up in a head-to-head against Schlockneil, they might win. But I think the path is a little bit longer coming through Leinster. And of the Leinster teams, I'd probably put O'Loughlin's top of them.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think if the Leinster Championship was played 10 times, they'd win it more times than any other team. But I still think, I don't know. I think they will get their fill of it this weekend. Generally do.
Are you going to give your own neighbours there any hop? You look reluctant, huh? I
think it's a bit soon for them to. They could go on a bit of a. It is open, like Leinster is very open. Without Ballyhale, there's a hell of a lot of teams, I'm sure, thinking, geez, this is some opportunity for us. I think that game is on telly on Sunday against Na Fianna. They have to go down to Wexford. Now, I do fancy them to win that. But they haven't been to provincial finals since 2018. Hadn't won a county title since this year, this year was the first year they'd won since 5 or 6 years. I think there are probably a few with more credit in the bank in Leinster than them. Naas probably been one of them, I'd say. Where do Na Fianna come in here as well?
Yeah,
You know,
like
and the Fianna side who are missing Donald Burke and other guys, but won a county final 219 to 9 points against what you would say is a seasoned enough Ballyboden kind of team. Maybe on the other side of the hill. But I would have where do we have Naas in the last one? Maybe 8.
Let me bring it up again. We had them in at 8, yeah.
I suppose then you're looking at the other side of Munster here as well and thinking, where do Kildangan and Clonlara come into the equation? One of them is going to be in a provincial final. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm just looking in terms of like Na Fianna. Is there any chance of having Donald Burke back soon? Like Niall O'Kellicon, who's the manager, he was saying before the final, this is because of the hamstring injury that he suffered earlier this year in the quarter-final loss to Clare. We'd love to have Donald for the final. He's been with the club all his life, but I said it after the quarter-final as well. Ultimately, Donald is only one player. Yes, he's our captain, and we'd really, really love to have him, but one player doesn't win a championship. A team wins a championship. That's totally true. So he hadn't ruled him out entirely. Now, you know yourself as a manager, you want to give up as little information as possible. But I don't know, does that mean there's any opportunity for him to play in the Leinster Championship? If he's available to go, I'd be putting Na Fianna next in the list here. But we don't know. So we're going to have to go we're going to have to go on the basis that he's not available. So will that put Naas next in this list?
I'd have Naas right up there. They've probably gone up a notch or two, given what's gone, given Ballyhale are gone. Obviously, Loughrea are gone. Maybe by default they go from 8 to 6. Then, if we think, like, do we think Naas could get to a Leinster final?
Yeah,
I wouldn't see why not. They got a big win over Shannon last year, going from All Ireland intermediate champions to going up to senior level, beating the Offaly champions comprehensively, been very competitive against ultimately the All Ireland champions Ballyhale. Like they're missing maybe a couple. Maybe they might not be as strong as they were last year, but they're still very strong. Yeah, I'd have them right in there, and not 100% sure if the draw allows it. Can it be an O'Loughlin's Naas final? Are they on opposite sides of the draw? This information, Shane, is actually really hard to find, by the way, outside of Wikipedia, which is ridiculous. It's very hard to find on Leinster websites.
It's on the Leinster website here.
Okay, well, it's not easy to find.
Well, I just Googled it there at the time that you brought it up. So Camross will face Naas, Naveina against Kilcormac, Raharney against Na Fianna, and Mount Rangers against O'Loughlin Gaels. So the winners of Naveina and Kilcormac will face the winners of Mount Leinster and O'Loughlin Gaels. So if we were to go with what we kind of think, maybe O'Loughlin's would win that and maybe Kilcormac could win that. So that means that they could end up in a final against Camross, Naas, Raharney or Na Fianna. So that's the way it would work out.
Yeah. Would you fancy Naas to get to a Leinster final? You probably would, just about, I'd say.
They'd have a decent chance. Yeah.
SSRI is asking a very pertinent question. So Shane and Verney, are you saying a team from Derry with about 6 senior clubs will beat Tipperary champions with about 16 senior clubs? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying anyway. Well,
it's also to do with the path to getting there. So I think Kildangan and Schlockneil, I wouldn't be able to call who'd win that game, but obviously Kildangan are going to be a nice bit further down because they've played Clonlara, the Clare champions. They've got to try and come up, if they win that, and this is the same for Clonlara, then you have to go and beat, the Ballygunner team, and that's not going to be easily done. So I've kind of thrown a couple of more names in here just to kind of see how you react to this. So put O'Loughlin's 5, Naas 6. Again, this is partly down to the path. Na Fianna 7, Kildangan 8. What do you think?
Oh,
what a response!
just let me see who we're leaving out.
Well, we're leaving out the likes of your Clonlaras. We're leaving out your
Cushendall not in yet either. Kilcormac not in yet. Naas, Na Fianna. Very interested to see how Na Fianna go. The first time champions
here.
Yeah, that's because on the law of averages, we're probably saying that O'Loughlin's will get the job done against them. But yeah, I was obviously pushing for O'Loughlin's for the 10 the last time, but I'd probably be pushing for Mount Leinster to be in this 10, being honest with you.
Yeah, well, look, Adrian McGrath saying Clonlara will beat Na Fianna, not a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, there is a shadow of a doubt. I think there's plenty of doubt there, especially if, you're telling me that it'd be handy enough to just hold down Colin Curry, Sean Curry, Donald Burke, and I know I'm definitely not thinking of other players off the top of my head, but even Brian Ryan, who's midfielder, transferred up from Sound Liberties, has an All-Ireland with Limerick a couple of years ago. They've plenty of good players. Liam Rush at centre-back. Oh, handy beat them, yeah.
Adrian likes to go after your two babies, so he'll go after Tip number 1, and then he'll go after Dublin second.
Yeah,
he'll go after UCD next, then he'll go after Whitehall. Although you're finished up with them, he'll go after everything that you know and love.
So Richard Hogan says Kildangan 7, Kilcormac 8. Look, you've seen far more of Kilcormac than I do, but they have players who've played in Leinster Club Championship. They've gotten to finals, the whole lot. They have that experience, and some of the best young players in the country. Are they ready for the dirt and the schlap at this time of year against big physical teams from outside the county? Starting off with 𝘧𝘢𝘀𝘀, maybe we'd probably expect them to just about win that game. And after that, they're going to have to go ahead and play a big fixture against either O'Loughlin Gaels or Mount Leinster. I don't see them getting through, for example, if O'Loughlin's got through or Mount Leinster. I wouldn't see them getting through that game. So I probably wouldn't have them. In the 10.
No, I probably wouldn't either. I think in time they'll be a regular fixture in the 10. I can tell you that. I think every year for the next 10 potentially they could be in there before county championships are played. Given the talented players that they have coming through, it's obviously it's a new experience for Greckin Kavanagh and Adam Screeney and these boys. It's not a new experience for Killian Kiley, Conor Matton, Damien Kilmartin. A lot of these guys. Are they in the 10? They're probably not. Like, how many? The thing about this is that, okay, Ballygunner 1, Thomas 2, Na Piarsaigh 3, Schlockneil 4, O'Loughlin Gaels 5, Naas, Na Fianna, Kildangan, Clonlara, Cushendall. You're kind of hedged your bets with the other Munster semi-final. We put one of the, we can't. That's a very very hard game to call. But one of them are going to be in a Munster final, and I honestly think that is a coin toss. Genuinely do. So I'm kind of happy enough with that. Who are we leaving off? Kilcormac are offered. Mount Leinster, who I think will surprise. Camross, 𝘧𝘀𝘀𝘀,
down champion. Port Ferry one down.
Yeah, I'm actually happy enough with that list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, people get your comments in. Let us know. Slate us now, right? Hedge your bets now, or let us know now. Call it out now, rather than, it's easy to be wise after the event. Like, we got a lot of it wrong the first time out. You were pushing Loughrea very, very hard, as we know. You like to call me out for pushing Ballyhale or whatever, but you were heavily leveraged and mortgaged on Loughrea, and look at you now.
I wasn't. I was heavily mortgaged on O'Loughlin's, and look at me now. I've got 2 houses now.
Okay, you Paddy's not happy with us here.
Not happy, man. The resident Carlow man. But he's not resident in Carlow anymore. I think he's resident in Clare now. But he's not happy. Listen.
But it's not that we don't rate Mount Leinster. We do rate Mount Leinster. It's just like my kind of. I reckon that they'll come up short against O'Loughlin's, and I could be totally wrong. And they'll put manners on it maybe. But it's based on the fact that we think that the next game could be their last.
There's so many teams that are playing this weekend in the Leinster Championship that it's a kind of a 50-50 or 55-45 game. If they win, they could win Leinster, but they could easily lose this weekend. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And look,
Mount Leinster been 1, Na Fianna been 1, Naas been 1, Kilcormac been 1. Like, there's a hell of a lot of them this weekend.
And look, I see here PWell74, Shane, you were all in on Thurles. Yeah, just like I was in Dixborough. And I've been wrong plenty of times, and I've been right other times. We're having a cut. Like, we don't want to be like some of those other windy programs where everyone's great. We're having a cut to see, can we get this right? And we know we won't get all right.
The resident O'Loughlin Gaels supporter, Joe Butler. I don't think O'Loughlin Gaels should be in it. Joe, come on, pull the other one now.
Derek Lynch, Clare FM, lads, Clonlara behind some of those is banana stuff. But you get what we're saying here, Derek, that part of it is down to the path. That's why both Kildangan and Clonlara are down there. We kind of fancy in a toss of a coin game that Kildangan might get over Clonlara, but we don't expect either of them to beat Ballygunner. So that's why both of them are down the list. So I don't think it's necessarily saying that Clonlara would lose to every team that's above them in the list. It's not an easy thing to do. It's all subjective.
We've drawn the ire of some people, most notably people on the West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. Adrian McGrath, he's 100% safe on UCD. Lads get serious FFS. Clonlara have John Conlon and 2 Galvins. They also have multiple really good athletic Clare under-20s from the last few years. Yeah, we're not dismissing them as being. We're not saying they're a useless team or anything like that.
And see, the thing about this is Clonlara hadn't won Clare in 15 years. Like, Kildangan aren't coming up against Na Piarsaigh or Ballygunner here. That's just
Kildangan are serial challengers. It's serial challengers against the team that was B champions in Clare last year.
Yeah, you have a team coming out with Tip that were in 5 finals the last maybe 6, 7 years, 2-time champions. Yeah, no, if I was to favour someone, I'd probably just be slightly favouring Kildangan in that game. But I expect that to be one of the better club games of this year, being honest.
Yeah, like Kildangan is a ludicrous cause, says Adrian McGrath. They haven't a single serious inter-county player. Well, Willie Connors would be a serious inter-county player if he didn't have so many injury issues the last couple of years. Alan Flynn has obviously played plenty. Like Billy Seymour has under 20 All-Irelands as well, if you're going to be talking about underage success. And I know I'm forgetting somebody else there as well. Sean Hayes, Barry Hogan, obviously, in the goals.
But
James
hold on a second here. Like, Patrick Swell had, 3 of the best inter-county players in the country. But we're not talking about, like, inter-county players. We're talking
about half the Kilkenny team and they're gone.
Yeah, we're talking about a team overall. And I would say Kildangan are a very, very solid club team overall. Very hard team to find weaknesses in. Clonlara, will you be able to find a few weaknesses? Maybe. Do they have a couple of bigger marquee names? Yes, they probably do. Is that offset by the fact that Kildangan are so consistent and their graph is maybe not inter-county level high, but it's high the whole way through? And listen, we'll preview that. We might get a Clonlara face maybe for Thursday's show.
Yeah, do we know anyone from Clonlara that'd like to have a pop at us? Mikey Butler would follow you around the place if you left O'Loughlin's out, says James OS.
It was funny. I was chatting to Mikey's old fella before I went into the match before I went into the county final, and he just said, "Oh, that was great old crack the night you were up in O'Loughlin's doing the show." And I said, "Oh yeah." I says, "How do you think today go?" He says, "I don't know." I said, "Who's your man going to follow today?" And I says, "I think you might follow Adrian Mullen." And he was just like, he was kind of letting on that he knew absolutely not. "Do you think he'd follow my touches?" I don't know. This kind of crack. But it's gonna be interesting with O'Loughlin's. Like, 2 weeks flies around fairly quickly now. You enjoy it for 3 or 4 days. You get a bit of the kind of dirty petrol out, and you go again. Whereas you look at how long are Mount Leinster waiting to play this game. I'm sure they've played some pretty good games on the challenge game circuit, and they are primed and ready to go. They gave Ballyhale their fill of it at the same stage 2 years ago, I think, and only just kind of Ballyhale only got the one up on them coming down the home stretch. So there's going to be very little in that. Really looking forward to going into minute detail on those games on Thursday's show.
Yeah, like O'Loughlin's, they have plenty, like we said it with Kilcormac Killahee. So do O'Loughlin Gaels. An awful lot of their players played the Leinster Championship final only a few years ago. And we have Richard Hogan asking what's the semi-final draw in Leinster. So the way it's going to work out, the winner of Camross and Naas will play the winner of Raharney against Raharney versus Nafina, and the winner of Naomh versus Kilcormac will play the winner of Mount Leinster against O'Loughlin Gaels. So no matter what way it pans out, it should be tasty enough. We'll just see if we have a couple of more comments coming in now. When you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. Not really sure. That's good.
That's from the Simpsons. That's the lock of the week quote.
Oh, is it? Okay. Keep an eye on Leixlip in the Leinster Junior Championship. Played senior in Kildare last year and got promoted back to senior this year. A bit of pressure on Kildangan now because of those comments after the county final. Is there pressure just because they're talking about being thrown under the bus? Well, one person said it. It's not like every player came out and said we were thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I don't think there's much pressure on them, to be honest with you. And I think they love the opportunity to give Munster a crack. It's something different. It's something completely different for them. How they'll adapt to that is going to be really interesting. Same with Clonlara. So John Conlon is probably the only one that played Munster Championship the last time. So there's only going to be one person on the field that has played a Munster Championship game before.
Between the two teams.
Yeah.
Because
you know what I mean?
Haven't been in there because they weren't allowed to the last time. Thomas Gallagher, Schlockneil wants more teams playing at seniors. Should the Ulster champions be allowed to step up if they win a provincial this year? I'd fancy Setanta to do it. Okay, so we'll just run through it one last time. So here is our top 10 as things stand. Ballygunner 1, St. Thomas's 2, Napiershig, Schlockneil, O'Loughlin Gaels. 6th are Naas, Nafina, Kildangan, and then 9th and 10th are Clonlara, Cushendall. Get the comments in. Are we right?
Shano, quickly, right? If you had one mulligan on that list, who would it be to come out and who would it be to come in? Because we've agreed on a list. It's like an all-star team. You have one opinion. I maybe have a different opinion. My mulligan would be I wouldn't have Nafina at 7. They'd probably be at the tail end of the 10, being honest with you. And I'd probably bring Mount Leinster Rangers in. What would your mulligan be?
So who are you dropping out of the 10 then? Don't be saying I'd move them down a bit.
I'd probably have Nafina down at something like 9. I'd probably move Cushendall up 1, and I'd probably leave out Clonlara.
Wow, Derek Lynch is going to be after you, and so is Adrian McGrath. I'm happy enough with that list.
You're happy with everyone on that list?
Look, I mean, we're kind of arguing the toss, splitting hairs at this point, and you've plenty of them to split. Kilcormac says Sully win 8. Like, I think Kilcormac are going to win one very, very soon. Shane, will Bursley come back to form, or has their time passed? It's going to be tough to get back and need an awful lot of stuff to come right, and an awful lot of the players in their sort of early to mid-20s to really take over the team. So finally some sensible talk. You're looking to curry favour everywhere. Everyone's a great lad according to you.
I'm not. I fancy Mount Leinster to cause a bit of an upset this weekend, to be honest with you. Wouldn't be a bit surprised if they did, because I know one of the comments there said that we're saying that O'Loughlin's lack forwards. I think what we're saying is they probably lack a couple of marquee kind of forwards, if you get me. Someone that's going to score 1-4 or 1-5 from play, or 2-3 or something like that. I think that's what they lack. I think they have a lot of lads that could chip in. But you've mentioned it before. They are going to they're going to keep the scores against quite low with the defense that they have. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't see a team getting in and putting 317 or 318 or 220 on them. I don't think I can anyway, given they have Lawler, Deegan and Mikey Butler. But listen, we could be proven wrong. I just think what O'Loughlin's need to do this weekend is survive. And it's what a lot of teams need to do in Leinster this weekend. They just need to get through the game. They just need to win, because that buys them another 2 weeks. And if Kilcormac are to beat 𝘱𝘗𝘂, that means, Screeney and all those boys have played the Leinster Championship game. They know what it's like. And then they've another 2 weeks, and then potentially another 2 weeks as well.
So this power rankings isn't yours, Bernie. Shane thrown under the bus as P.
Well, it's not necessarily mine.
Like you're trying to divorce yourself from it. That when we get to the next rankings, you'll be like, well, look, now I was saying Mount Leinster. So are you back in this rankings or not?
I'd always back it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't want you to have wiggle room when it comes to it.